Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Wordness to the Nerdness podcast, a show where nerdy guys dive headfirst into the history of games, movies, TV, and everything else in the nerdy universe today. You can find our podcast on podcast services worldwide, and if I'm lying, please let us know, because I'm trying to get us everywhere. Today we're going to be talking about THQ Nordic and the black magic they're using to conjure up money, some changes that we have going down the pipeline moving forward, and so much more. Actually, you know, that's probably it. Anyway, I'm Nathan Grote, and when I wrote this down, it was before I had to change this up, but right above me is Pasta Lover 69, Sean Mahoney.
Yeah.
And then to the left of me, I've got Mr. Microtransactions himself in the flesh, Sam Benny. Oh, look at that shirt. And then lastly, to my top left, I got Harry's long lost cousin that didn't make the cut at Hogwarts, Curtis Potter.
Rip.
Ouch.
Oh boy, how are you guys doing today? I had fun writing those.
Yeah, I like that.
How long did that take you?
A little bit longer than I want to admit.
Nice, I like it.
Pasta Lover 69.
Yeah.
Pasta Lover 69, man.
Well,
Listen, Pasta
you're
Snob,
right.
never forget. I actually thought I was going to put it on there, like, since you don't even have a Twitter handle, I was just going to put @Pasta Snob.
It
But
just changes every week with the new
Probably,
Twitter
yeah.
handle.
it's probably already a Twitter handle, so I just, some random person be getting all these tweets.
That'd
App.
be
Just
hilarious.
For now, just like put random ones that.
I should. People are going to be saying, like,
Just
why are you
random
tweeting at me? Oh, man.
That's a great idea. I think you should definitely do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll put in for the next one.
Yeah, do we want to talk about how we became Pasta Snob in the Discord?
Yeah,
Oh god.
And an unanimous vote, or unanimously voted that he needed to change it.
so those
Our
of you
last
that are listening to the podcast and want to hang out with us, you can in the show notes. There's a link to our Discord, and you can hop in there and check it out. It'll take you to Group 2. You're not in the wrong spot. That's just where we're at. But yeah, some of the people in the Discord have been listening to the podcast, and they heard about Pasta Snob over here, and yeah, and he had to change his name. And those of you that are unaware of what we're talking about, finish last week's episode. Go back, and listen to it. It was a good one. It was a good one.
Listen to me make lots of good points.
Yeah.
Zero good
There
points
No
were
good
made.
points were made.
They were
yeah.
so
Yeah,
valid.
I know, like all the best points were made by me. So.
100% lies across the board.
Oh, so how's you guys this week?
Dude, I'm shot right now.
Yeah,
Went to Atlantic City over the weekend. It was crazy stuff.
another vacation? Of course you did.
Ooh.
Another
course you did.
vacation. Went to Atlantic City. Went to a pool party with Cascade DJing.
Cascade was DJing?
Yeah, dude, it was nuts. And
Dang.
then ate a lot of food, drank a lot of booze. You know, the usual. Now I'm tired.
That makes sense. I mean, other than with the Apple Watches, been starting up another competition with Curtis, and like now it's basically we're gonna be maxing out 600 points a day, and it's killing me.
Dude, it's great. I've been like at it, so.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely good for my body, kind of. I don't know. I'm still in pain all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, I did like 500 calories. I feel good. And then Grote comes in, oh, I just did 3,000 calories.
Well,
30 minutes.
basically.
Grote classifies opening the fridge as like high intensity.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
It's like, oh,
Listen.
300 calories burned.
Listen-
to the bathroom.
Listen to the strategic way I do this. So I go to the fridge, and then it's like I'm pulling it open. That's like high intensity. And then I check the top, of the fridge. So I'm like swiping left and right, checking what's in the fridge.
That's cardio too.
But there's nothing there. So then I have to squat down, which I get the squats in. And then I check the bottom shelf and I don't find anything. And then I go back and forth a couple times because I swear the next time I look in the same spot, something will be there that I want to eat. And then there's...
Or you can't find something, so you go down to do a push-up and look under. But then you go up and jump up high to touch the top of the fridge, and you do a burpee. So
exactly,
like you're going to eat anything you found on there.
Exactly. And then Mabel like asks, like, I'm coming to bed. She's like, "Why are you breathing heavy?" I was like, "I was trying to find some food in the fridge."
And okay, 12,000 calories burned. Crazy.
Do you guys do that though? Do you ever like look in your fridge for like 20 minutes thinking that like
Yes.
the longer you look, like something's gonna magically appear that you didn't see before?
Dude, that's my life in a nutshell.
I had to remove.
I'll look
the,
right after dinner too, like right after
Right.
I eat. I'll just go right into it and be like, oh.
I'll be like,
Yeah, I won't even be hungry. I'll just be looking like just longing. It's like, oh,
Exactly.
it's like, man, I swear I bought wings. Like, where are they at? I swear they're in here somewhere.
I had to
Oh,
remove
God.
the dinger from my door, so it would leave me alone when I want to have the door open for 5 minutes or more.
Yeah.
it made a noise.
Yeah, mine would beep at me if I left the door open.
That's
I
so
don't have-
aggressive.
I found the motherboard for the refrigerator, and I snipped the speaker off. I was like, "That's gonna be no." Thanks.
Yeah, that's so aggressive and angry. That's strange.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
have
annoying.
that sort of intelligence on our fridge here, unfortunately. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
Oh.
the most high-tech thing I do on my fridge is replacing a light bulb.
hey, I did something else this weekend though. I started Ubering again to make a little bit of income, just a little bit here and there.
Really?
It's like, so I did it before. So when I was going on a Vegas trip back in 2016, I drove for Uber for a little bit, and at the time, I wasn't impressed because like they didn't allow tips, and I was like out all the time. And so I tried it again, signed up, but I did Uber and Lyft, so I was doing both at the same time, and tested that out. I was kind of hoping that I'd be like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work and I'm gonna take people to and from the airport, and it's just gonna be busy. I'll just go to the airport. Someone's trying to go back, yada yada yada. I even went strategic. I looked at the manifest of all the flights, all the arrivals coming in, and I figured I will be at the airport when the arrivals hit, so I'll take people there. Well, basically the way they have it set up is when you go to the airport, you have to wait in a certain designated area, and in that area you're in a queue, and so it's like just first in, first out. So you come in, and you might be the 7th in line, but the problem is Wichita is not that big of a place, and so an arrival might happen at 8. I get in there, and there's 7 people in front of me. And so 8 o'clock hits, people are going. I see the queue go down, 7, 6, down to 3 or something. Then it just tapers off, and no one's going. And I look at the next arrival, and the next arrival might not be until 9. So... And man, I was there. I waited for one pickup at the airport. I was waiting for over an hour to pick someone up. I'm like, this isn't worth it. And then it was like a $10 trip. But by midnight, it was back and forth all the time. I was just picking up drunk people all over the place. Like I'd pick up one, take them there, get another ding, go somewhere else, take them. And so I made $110 over that night, which I started at 8 o'clock until about 2 o'clock in the morning, but about 80 of those dollars were made between midnight and 2. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to do it at night.
Yeah.
That's Uber.
That's Uber. That's Uber.
The only time I've ever used Uber is coming from a bar or going to.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about that. Guys, today we are going to talk about a company that you guys may have heard about in the news recently and before, and making waves on 8chan, and that is THQ Nordic. So
Jesus Christ.
So here's the thing. THQ Nordic is one of those companies that, from the outside looking in, it's like I have no idea what they're doing. All they're doing is buying up all this stuff, and they haven't really released anything great yet. You know, like Darksiders 3 could have been that, but Darksiders 3 was lackluster. So, you know, it's kind of confusing what they're trying to do. But the more and more that I was like reading about this, well, tell you, I'll just let me just go over this, and then I'll let you guys decide for yourself. But I got an interesting one for you guys today. I think you're gonna like it. So, before we get into THQ Nordic, though, in general, we need to start with THQ, which most people would be familiar with, making games like Homefront, Saints Row, and the Darksiders franchise, or at least 1 and 2. But to tell the whole story, I feel like I feel like that's the best place to begin, because what THQ Nordic is now, like, wouldn't make sense without kind of getting a little bit of history of THQ, even though they're not the same company, and I'm not diving in too much, into THQ.
True.
So we're not going to go into the creation of THQ, just the downfall. But they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back in 2012. They defaulted on a $50 million loan from Wells Fargo. They were attempting to restructure and pull money together, do a couple, funny things here and there, but they couldn't, pull the resources together. And the judge decided that they'd be more profitable selling all their assets individually. One of the ones on there too that I didn't realize, but before THQ filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, what they were banking on and hoping that would keep them alive to keep going forward was the South Park Stick of Truth game. But since they couldn't, they kept getting delayed, and we all know
ended up with Ubisoft.
That's how it ended up with Ubisoft. And the thing is, that's crazy is, if you guys know, this is off topic, but Matt Stone and Trey Parker, what to do in South Park, they're always wanting to change stuff. That's why with South Park, the longer they spend on the episode, the more they'll want to change it. They cannot settle. So when they're putting this game together, they constantly wanted to change stuff, and it was frustrating. But that's also caused a huge delay in the game. I'm just going to say it's possible that Matt Stone and Trey Parker were responsible for THQ filing for bankruptcy. I'm just gonna put it out there.
There's a few things.
No, there's definitely. Honestly, they shouldn't have been bankrolling on that game, but anyway. But just to list a few notable titles that THQ sold off when they were selling all their assets. It was the Darksiders franchise, The Blob, Destroy All Humans, one that Sam talked about last week, Full Spectrum Warrior, MX vs ATV. Red Faction franchise. It was a total of 33 games / franchises that were sold from THQ to Nordic Games, which is now THQ Nordic. And those 33 games that they bought, THQ Nordic bought them for $4.9 million. So that's actually a really good deal for 33 franchises. I mean, that's pennies on the dollar that's for crazy. Getting all of those there.
It's a lot of IPs.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed pretty interesting because I can't remember the numbers right now, but when I was looking at some of the other franchises that THQ was selling, there would be single franchises selling for $10 to $12 million. So how they worked out this deal to get it for 4.9, my guess is that THQ must have thought that these franchises were dead, or I don't know, because Saints Row sold for a lot more, and so did Homefront, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. I bored Sean to take my nap.
Does
right.
this actually have anything to do with, other than having all these franchises, is it in any way actually related to THQ, right? Because I don't think it is.
So, no. So, okay, so what happened is, and I'll talk about this a little bit later and everything. I might repeat myself because I wrote this down. I put it in a way that made sense in my mind. But when THQ bought those games, they didn't even buy the THQ trademark at that point. They actually bought the THQ trademark a year later, and then in 2013, and they didn't actually change their name until 2014 or 2016. I think it's 2016 to THQ Nordic.
Yeah.
So it was
It's
it was
kind of
some
a
years
weird segue
later.
to like how Atari is now, where it kind of exists, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, because when we covered that episode, Atari was split up into 3 divisions.
Yeah.
When they sold that off. So yeah.
Well, Kodak is the same way, or Polaroid. Yeah, Polaroid is a similar thing too,
Oh really?
Mhm.
where it doesn't exist, but the name, is kind of
Yeah.
the same.
It's yeah. Yeah, you're right. It
It's
does make sense.
recognizable that something someone wants, even though it's not actually the same company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like high intensity training.
Yeah.
The name's there, but
Oh god. Okay. Well, anyway, that's all I want to cover on THQ, because the more and more I started reading and putting this together, the more and more I'm convinced that THQ Nordic is going to be a threat in the industry in the future, cutting into the titans of the industry right now, like Activision and EA. Because, like, the reason why I believe this is the CEO of the company, who is Lars. I tweeted at him, and I'm really upset because I know I'm going to butcher his name. Lars Wingfors.
Wing Force sounds probably.
Wingfors.
wing for
Anyway, and what he's accomplished throughout his life in such a short time. So, as a matter of fact, today, as like the CEO of THQ Nordic and a bunch of the other subsidiaries, within the company as well, he's only 42 years old.
Jeez.
So,
Yeah.
and THQ Nordic's revenue generated it was an extended fiscal year that they put it at most recently, but it was January 2018 to March 2019, so 15 months, was 5.8 billion Swedish krona, which is roughly 590 million US dollars. Was the revenue last year. And so what's crazy to me is, like, with numbers like that, it's like, what are these selling? Because there hasn't really been anything like released that's that great yet, No one's really kind of blown up over THQ Nordic, and these games that they most recently mentioned this year at E3 aren't coming out until 2020, and we'll get to that later. But so Lars Erik Olaf Wingefors is his full name. And below this,
Those are
if you
some
guys,
European names.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll talk about this later, but I've got this chart in here, and I'm gonna also put this in the show notes and stuff. But it's basically all of the companies and subsidiaries and properties that Lars owns, and it's extensive. It's huge. So Lars, born April 2nd, 1977, has one of the most impressive resumes you may ever hear about. In 1990, at the age of 13, he started a company called LW Comics, selling a variety of items from like Christmas magazines to plastic bags to secondhand comic books, which was like the main deal. And it was a mail order company, and he made around 300,000 Swedish krona annually, which I did a lot of math, like research on this, but in 1990 was about 53,000 US dollars. At 13 years old, he made a salary of $53,000. Dude.
Man, I feel like garbage already.
But listen, it gets crazier.
It gets worse.
It gets
Yeah, I don't
crazier.
even think I had an allowance.
By age 16, he started a second company, which was Nordic Games, and it was the same business practice as LW Comics, but he was selling used games as opposed to used comics, so like, GameStop and whatnot. But the first year he started the company, he generated 5 million Swedish krona, which was about 600,000 US dollars in 1993. Like, dude, I could not imagine making that money at 16. That's like, right now, that's like that kid that won at Fortnite at 16 and got $3 million. But that was just like playing a game. He started a business, like 16 years old, and he had people much older than him working under him.
Man, I was a lame 16-year-old thing.
Bro,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Damn.
they called me
Shit
the.
was easy back then.
When I was 16, they called me the nickel and dime hustler. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't asking for quarters because no one would cough up that good money. I was asking for nickels and dimes because no one cared about that. By the end of the day, I had like 35 cents. I had enough money to buy a bagel. Dude, out there hustling.
Yeah, but
Awesome.
now Amazon would swat this kid's house on day 2.
Right?
Dude, now I'm just thinking, there's this kid. He would wait because the lines at our lunch would be so long. He would wait through the lines and buy fries for everyone, and then charge a premium for the fries, just so you didn't have to wait in line. He'd do it for you, but charge a premium on it.
That's super smart.
That's
super smart. So what we do is every Tuesdays they had these bomb ass spicy chicken bites, and so what we do is but they're expensive. It was $1.50 for these, and you get that small little tray. So we get a tray, and we get another tray, and we look around, see are they looking at us, and then we just dump one tray into the other, and then quickly put that tray underneath it, so we get using the good old noggin.
Yeah, that's big brain.
Yeah, no, but we were definitely stealing, so we were technically felons, but it's all
what
good.
school was that?
I don't want to talk about it.
Roughly what time? And
Yeah, we had good school lunches until Michelle Obama took it all away.
So throughout the late 90s. So throughout the late 90s. Yeah. The company was struggling a bit to increase sales, and he was needing some restructuring. So Lars sold the company to a British retailer, Game. I think it was GameSupply.com or something, but anyway, it's now Game. And he sold it for stock with the company that valued about 5.9 GB, which is the British pound, which was about $9.6 million US dollars in 1999. So Game was struggling to turn a profit for the company, and with the .com bubble crash that happened in 2000, Game ended up selling Nordic Games back to Lars for a astounding, whopping, huge price of 1 Swedish krona, which was 10 cents.
What? Jesus.
Yeah. So I was I thought that was a typo at first. I was looking, I was like, what in the fuck? How is that possible? But it's because the company was in so much debt when he bought it back. He's basically buying the name because you had to have some sort of transaction, but he inherited all the debt with it. So basically, I didn't see a price of how much the company was in debt, but it
Probably
technically would have been kind of for a profit since you're taking that debt from him. But anyway.
So they just wanted to offload it no matter what.
Yeah. So they're just trying to get it. That .com bubble crash was huge, and a bunch of companies went over, and some survived, but a lot managed to fail then. So Lars has the company back, and it was operating at a loss, but sadly the company fired for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2004. So that's it. That's the end of Nordic Games. So what do you guys think?
Did not imagine that being the origins at all. It's so weird.
No,
That's what I was gonna guess.
No, yeah. So a bunch of
My
this
life sucks.
Yeah, a bunch of that happened then, 2004. But at a glance, it just no one. It was still just no one really knew what the company was. They kind of came and went so quickly, in that time. But no, I'm just kidding. This isn't the end, obviously, because they're still around. But so after that, Lars restructured and rebranded the company from Nordic Games to Game Outlet Europe, and intended to change from selling used games to selling new games. But basically what he was doing, he was taking large title games that were unsold, hitting up the EAs, the Activision of they made X amount of games, hey, what do you have left over? Let me buy these games at a discount. They bought those games, they repackaged them on pallets, and then they sold them internationally to another bunch of European retail stores. So, was very successful and turned a pretty huge profit enough. And I made a typo here. It wasn't December 2018. In December 2008.
I was things escalated quick.
The company. What was I trying to say there? The company basically wanted to restart up Nordic Games, but different from their old practices. This was going to be a video game publishing studio with now Game Outlet Europe. So Nordic Games back 4 years later.
Nice.
The plan was with the studio was to fill the gap in industry where it felt it was needed. One such spot was with Nintendo. So they saw the company was lacking, or Nintendo was lacking, in karaoke style games, which I guess PlayStation had a few at the time. So they wanted to fill that gap, and what they ended up doing was releasing a game called We Sing and Dance Party Club Hits for the Nintendo Wii, which I never heard of, but ended up being a very profitable for them. I'm assuming it was way more profitable in Europe than we saw here in the United States.
That's what it was in.
Like, yeah, that especially karaoke, that's way more popular there than here. Like Japan, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And it made sense to go after the Nintendo Wii because, like, the Nintendo Wii, there are just so many out there. So it was perfect for them to to get that there.
Well, this was probably around the same time Rock Band and
I was gonna
Guitar
say,
Hero and all that
Yeah.
crap was really
Just
kicking
Dance
off.
and all
Didn't
that.
the Wii? Yeah, that was huge. And didn't the Wii have the last game for it come out this year?
Yeah, they did. They still, and it may not even be the last game.
That's crazy.
They made Let's Dance, like Ubisoft's making Let's Dance for Wii. So, and I mean, I wouldn't be. It's still selling, so I wouldn't be surprised if they make it
insane,
next year
dude.
too. You know,
That's insane.
it does
It's
seem
like the
crazy.
Now. It's like the Now. That's what we call music series. It just won't
Oh
die.
god,
Yeah.
no, even worse.
Wii
the
was
Kids
so
Bop.
bad that
Kids Bop.
they kept releasing on the Wii.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
Kids Bop is like a form of torture. Like they play that at,
dude, Kids
like
Bop
detention
was
centers
the
and
shit.
stuff.
You know, like, cause you had all those songs that it's like, man, I love this song, but I wish I had kids my age sing it. You
Right?
know, that's what.
It would be great.
Yeah, that's totally what I said when I
That's-
got that kid.
That was totally what I was telling my mom. I was like, Mom, I love this song. Can you give me the Kids Bop version of it?
Yeah, right.
Do you want
Oh,
the
man.
waterboarding or the Kids Bop? Oh god.
That's a
I love
tough-
some of the songs
that's a
they
tough
picked
question.
too, because they're like songs that are totally not appropriate.
Right?
Yeah.
Change the lyrics just enough so it works, and then it's just children singing it, and it's so bad.
It's like you got 13-year-old me. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. And the kid's just freaking out.
Love the police coming straight from the
Love the.
I love the
I like that. Good.
All right, we're doing a Kids
Oh,
Bop episode.
right. I'm like,
Kids Bop episode. Send us a message on Twitter.
young kid got it bad because I frowned. All right. Anyway. Okay. So to avoid a bunch of like business talk of things that I don't feel qualified to talk about, between 2010 and 2013, Nordic Games holdings and groups and subsidiaries, to where at this point the company had like 15 different companies all under one roof. If you want to see in the notes and like what I put up there earlier, look at this graph, and it's just ridiculously large of like how much these companies were folding each other, and it's just wild. So, let's talk to THQ Nordic 2013. Like I stated earlier, 2012 they had bought a bunch of that stuff from THQ. 2013 is when they bought the actual. So 2014 is when they bought the trademark. So 2 years after actually buying
That makes
the
sense.
games, they bought the trademark. And it wasn't until 2016, though, that they would change their name to THQ Nordic. One of the things to keep in mind here,
I remember
too.
hearing about them buying the trademark, and then
Yeah, I do remember that. It was kind of a weird deal.
and then games started showing up, and it said THQ Nordic, and I was like, huh?
So one of the weird things, and like as I'm reading this, I realized I didn't go into full detail of it because it's very confusing. But you have THQ Nordic AB, which is the holding company that owns a bunch of these, including THQ Nordic GmbH, which is the company that's responsible for making the games, but they're different. The THQ Nordic AB owns a bunch of other stuff, and including like some of the stuff like Lars is responsible with like real estate and a few other companies that he's involved with. So they're not the same. So that's why it was kind of confusing when they changed their name to THQ Nordic. They also changed the holding company as well, not GmbH. So anyway, just keep that in mind as I go through this, and some of it might to start make more sense. So 2016, they changed their name to THQ Nordic, and they went public that same year in November for the NASDAQ First North to THQN is what they are on there. So THQ Nordic has essentially been in the media since the name change, primarily because we just hear a bunch of companies that they're buying up and a bunch of dead IPs that have been buying up for seemingly no understandable reason, and everyone in the industry has just been for the most part confused of what their plans are. As of today, as a matter of fact, the company has acquired a total of, and this math is probably wrong, so bear with me, but I believe it's 233 games. With one of its most recent and most notable purchases being Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, which was a game that also went out in like 2012. So,
Damn.
in 2000, that was in 2018, and not only gobbling up games from THQ Nordic, I wrote this wrong. Sorry, not only gobbling up games from THQ. THQ Nordic has also been acquiring some big companies as well. In 2018, they acquired Koch Media, which is an Austrian company, not to confuse with Koch Industries here in the United States, and Coffee Stain Studios. Now, Koch Media was one of the companies that went in and bought assets from THQ when they went down in 2012, and the games that they bought were Saints Row, and THQ, the original one, wasn't responsible for the Metro games, were they? I don't think so.
I think they still
Koch
have that.
Media owns
The Metro games are Russian.
Yeah, Deep Silver makes them, and Koch Media owns them. And so when they bought up Koch Media, they also got the Metro games franchise, like Homefront. I'll list a few others too. And Coffee Stain's biggest game being Goat Simulator. So they've done a few other things.
That name sounds familiar. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Simulator.
Right, yeah.
Have
So
you ever played Goats?
I have not played Goat Simulator.
It's pretty fun. It's ridiculous.
The thing is too,
Pass, or it used to be.
yeah, the thing is, I own the game from watching like the Game Awards or something back in 2017. I got it free for something like they gave there, and I just never booted it up to play. It's so dumb.
It's really good, actually. Yeah.
I actually have it on mobile for whatever reason, but yeah, it's silly and nonsensical, but yeah.
So after those acquisitions, like I said earlier, brought Metro and Goat Simulator, but they also got Saints Row, Homefront, Dead Island, Shenmue, Agents of Mayhem, and one of my personal favorites, Time Splitters, kind of came with these deals there.
These are all pretty big games.
I know.
Agents of Mayhem sucks. Well,
Yeah.
Dead Island, that's kind of like why Dying Light sort of exists, because wasn't that the Dead Island people?
Yeah.
And they kind of,
Yeah.
off on there.
So that's why it's like
was
crazy to me. Like they're
good
buying
game.
all these IPs and they're getting them for relatively not cheap, because acquiring Koch Media wasn't cheap. But they're getting them for a deal. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And still generating a revenue each year. So most recently of games released by THQ Nordic was Darksiders 3, which was released to mixed reviews, Biomutant, and The Blob 2. But just this year in 2019, they announced a few games releasing in 2020 or late this year. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, Destroy All Humans Remastered, and then Darksiders Genesis, which I think is coming out later this year, but it might get pushed to 2020. But that is a change from like the first three games. It'll be a top-down hack and slash RPG, kind of like the Diablo games. And so I want to read this quote that was released by THQ Nordic. They said, looking ahead, we expect to have 2 major AAA releases during the next financial year, which will be ending March 31st, 2021. I don't know why they go on those 15-year. Oh, no, actually, no, because this year ended 2019. So their fiscal year is ending in March every year. Anyway, so ending March 2021. And then in total, they're going to have 81. They have 81 games under development, where 47 were still unannounced by the end of the quarter. So it's like, dude, they have so many games in development. Like, they're just gonna, when they start releasing these games, it's gonna be a waterfall. Like, we're just gonna get game after game after game, and it's like, I'm still confused. It's like, how are they doing this? But anyway.
That's the weirdest part. Is it seems like such a mystery, and just so many things. They've gotten so many IPs and stuff, and like.
Yeah,
I'm guessing they're just mortgaging their future for hoping that this is going to work out.
I really want to see how this Destroy All Humans remaster is, and if it's good, like, I'm excited to see what happens.
but the thing is, like, THQ Nordic, or at least the game part, is just a tiny part of this entire industry that Lars built. And so even if he's like losing money here, he's still making money in other ventures that he's on. You know, so it's like they're not just like solely relying on the games. Almost. Pretty much.
It's very Elon Musk. Elon Musk
exactly.
Hands in a whole bunch of shit like that, and Jobs was the same way. Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
With all his stuff.
So that's why
I
it's
think
just
this Lars guy is a genius. Apparently, he knows what he's doing.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I really think that like this company is going to be huge moving forward, because like this guy Lars, and oh my god, if you look, okay, so if you go to his Twitter handle, which is just at Wingfurs. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. But there's a link to his website, and it's like larswingfurs.se or something else. It's easy to go to his Twitter handle. And if you look at his website, it's just balling. Like, first thing on the website is just him looking cool as cool as fuck in a suit with a cigar, just chilling in like this ballin' ass office, and it lists all this stuff, dude.
Young
it's
CEO
crazy.
type. I see.
Yeah, the young CEO type. He's.
Well, now I gotta look.
Have you guys seen? Have you guys watched Mr. Robot at all? It's on USA. Yeah. They're gonna be doing. So the Wall Street guy there, like the guy that kind of goes crazy. Sorry about spoilers, but he's like super young in it, and it's like the counterpart to whatever. Anyway, he kind of reminds me of him. This kid in the show looks like he's maybe 25 years old, and he's like one of the most powerful guys there on Wall Street. But that's what this guy reminds me of. So, what are they up to next? Wrapping this whole thing up, and how far they've grown and come. And I personally think THQ Nordic is on the right path to be something incredible, especially with Lars there in charge. Business-wise, he's done a ton. And remember, when he filed Nordic Games for Chapter 11 bankruptcy earlier back in the day, he was 27 years old at the time. So he did all of this stuff, and even then still managed to take it and restructure it. And he was only 27 years old. It's just mind-blowing to me.
That's nuts.
He's done more than most people in his current position in an incredibly short time than most people will do in their lives. So we'll see what they have in store for us in the coming years, but I wanted to leave one last little tidbit of news. I don't think I've heard anyone else like really say it. So when I was like browsing through all the articles, and I was on Wikipedia, and it was at the very end. I know that's a bad source, but I found one update.
That's just what the teachers want you to think.
Well, yeah, I went there, and then I went and verified it as well. So I think it's factual, but
don't worry about
one of the most recent updates, THQ Nordic is planning on changing their name from THQ Nordic to Embracer Group, which is subject to change pending approval at the company's annual meeting, which is slated this month on September 17th. And it's expected to pass right now. They have from what they're saying, it's like probably 70% expected to pass. But also, this is where it kind of goes back and forth. For clarification, this is going to be THQ Nordic AB changing their name to Embracer Group. So the THQ Nordic GmbH will probably still stay the same. But I don't know that for sure.
Is that the game?
That's the
part,
game
right?
part of it, yeah. So the game part of it may
That
still
would
be the
make more
same,
sense.
That
but
does
the
make more
holding group would be Embracer Group, which I think would
It's like
change.
Google switching to Alphabet because they didn't want everything to be under the Google name
Right.
because they're so spread out. So they're on the stock market, they're Alphabet,
Yeah.
but Google's still the big thing they do.
Yeah. And I think that'll change like their name for. I don't think it's gonna be THQN. When you look on NASDAQ, it'll probably be something different with that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
So that's basically all I got. But I just wanted to follow up with one last note because it wouldn't be as fun to talk about THQ Nordic without a little controversy. And some of you probably know about this, but if you aren't familiar with THQ Nordic, this would be news to you. But they're not averse to doing some strange stuff. So earlier this year in February, they, for God knows whatever reason, held an AMA on 8chan. And those of you that are unfamiliar with 8chan, it is an image board that's separate to 4chan, but it has a ton of controversy since like its inception, including
I was like, oh god, why is Grote talking about 8chan?
Yeah,
and I
so-
totally forgot this was the company that did it. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, I do remember that now.
So, and like this company, like they have message boards on there like about mass shootings. They've been accused of having child porn. They've actually been filtered out on Google search and even like taken off of some other search engines like permanently. Like this site is a cesspool, and this is where they decided to hold
edgelords like migrated from 4chan when like 4chan was getting.
So they decided to do the AMA there. Not Reddit like normal people. They just wanted to do it on 8chan. So one part I found funny, and this is a quote from a GameBiz.com article. I'll have the link in the show notes. But he goes, 45 minutes into the AMA itself, and in addition to various questions and requests for a new Destroy All Humans, the discussion is full of suggestive and outright pornographic images, references to Hitler, Nazis and Gamergate, slurs, and other similar content. One user replied to the AMA with, "Please don't censor any games nor appeal to the soc just crowd. You guys are doing just fine as is." In response, the THQ PR rep, Philip Brock, said, "Thanks, we'll try to stay that way." Brock later told Game Industry Biz that his reply was in relation to not censoring the games. So it's like it's just they do some things that are so weird and it didn't make sense, but
like 4chan's already greasy enough, so to just take it a step further, like who in that office decided he was like, yeah, this is a good idea.
But even the thing, but 4chan isn't related to 8chan, and so even those guys are like, ooh, like at 4chan they're like, ooh, what is 8chan up to? You know, like they're even confused. So, and the thing is, so I guess I didn't put this in the notes, but I guess 8chan had reached out to him, and they were just like, fuck it, why not? You know, sure, we'll do an AMA.
That is
so man,
weird.
They didn't know. No one knew.
I guess. Oh, dude, it was very interesting.
So that PR person got fired, I assume. No, they saw him not. What?
I feel like that's not the
You
worst
know,
thing.
I did not follow up to go look, so I do not know for sure.
Yeah, that's
any publicity is good publicity. Don't you?
That
know?
is true. That's like kind of one of the things I thought about it. Because they managed to stay in the media enough, even though they're seemingly doing a lot, but haven't released anything.
Said much, yeah.
Yeah, they really are the SpaceX and Tesla of gaming, to where they just have all these huge, crazy promises, but I don't hear anything. But still, turning revenue. That's what's crazy.
yeah.
So anyway,
Diversify your portfolio.
diversify it. That's what I got of THQ Nordic.
That's pretty crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm most excited about the SpongeBob game.
Yeah, I never played the first one, so I'm excited to
either.
check it
Games
out
are
as well.
actually, some of those old SpongeBob games are shockingly like solid.
Yeah. But even then, I think this is where it gets weird too, though, because Activision, I think, has the publishing rights of SpongeBob games. So, do not know.
They probably made a deal with them, some type of joint deal. Well,
Yeah.
it might be weird too for like remasters and things like that. Like
That's true.
I'd
it
love
gets
a fun
confusing,
movie.
man.
I know, man. It is weird. Like, I guess since we're done with the topic and everything, like, with Spider-Man, leaving the MCU basically from all this
We can
nonsense.
talk about this for a bit. Yeah.
I don't even. That's just so crazy to me. Sony, what are you
that
doing?
sucks. That's
Disney-
an antiquated system. It's such
I
bullshit.
blame Disney more than Sony though.
But
I
I
don't.
mean, they shouldn't be able to own that that much of it where they can block
Well,
the character completely. That's
well,
crazy.
the problem is Marvel made the mistake of selling off their big characters back in the day. And when they did this is why they're stuck in this corner, because they made these totally ridiculous, awful deals, thinking that people didn't really want these type of movies. Like we're never gonna bother making movies.
And to be
or
fair,
consoles.
just the technology at the time just wasn't quite there where it was like they could make a movie that they thought people would want to go see, probably.
Right.
without it being crazy expensive.
Exactly, yeah.
Sony just wanted that Spider-Man font for the PlayStation 3. We all know it.
But, I mean, here's something that I'm thinking, like, why can't Disney, for the most part, has no intention of publishing their own games. The want to do publishing rights for other ones. So why not make a deal to where Sony continue to make, because they just bought up, crap, now I'm not thinking of it. Who made Spider-Man?
I know. I want you to suffer. It's Insomniac.
Yeah,
Thank you, Insomniac. Because the thing is, Sony
I was like,
didn't
don't
own.
ask me.
Yeah, Sony didn't own them, and
They
he just
made
recently
Spyro,
bought
that's
them.
why I care so much.
There you go. But like, let Sony have the rights to publish Spider-Man games, and they can have like all of the profits or whatever on that, and then just give Disney the rights for Spider-Man for movies. I know
Well, here's the problem.
lawyers
They
can
have
write
these
up
rights,
for that.
and Spider-Man just prints money because it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man's bigger than all. Like, you don't think about it much, but it's bigger than all the Marvel heroes still.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's their biggest. So it just prints money no matter what they put out. And the thing is, like, the deal they had before, Sony was putting in money too, putting down money to make the movie, and then getting most of the cut, and then like, Disney would get part of it. And it's what it sounded like is Disney wanted like 50-50 to like basically just take a way huger cut.
This is what they were gonna do. So what happened was, Sony was funding the production of the movie, and they were getting the proceeds of the movie, whereas Disney wanted 50-50, but they were going to pay for making of the movie. So I think it was still going to be a beneficial deal for Sony. These still would have been profitable,
but
and
Sony
they would have been
wouldn't make as
responsible.
much as they were making now.
Well, I don't know. Okay, these movies are costing like $200+ million to make. So the way I look at it right now is, if this last one made $1 billion, that's Disney. Disney made that movie make $1 billion. It is the highest grossing Spider-Man of all time.
Oh, for
so
sure.
if they're going to incur the cost of making it and then split it 50-50, if you were to take this last movie anyway, Sony would still be up. If it costs like $200 or $250 million to make that movie, I don't know the exact number, but 200 sounds about right. They made $1 billion, so that's $800 million of revenue, and he split it 50-50. Basically, Disney would have made $300 million on that, and Sony still would have made $500 million because they wouldn't have to put the upfront cost. Whereas the way they're now, they would have got $800 million. But here's the thing: if they take Spider-Man out of this MCU and they start doing their own thing again, it's going to go back to the old Spider-Mans, and they'll probably generate like $300 million. And if they're spending $200 million to make it, like, I think Sony made a bad call here, and I'm hoping that they change their mind.
Because Marvel brought it forward and brought it out at Disney like it was a bad call. I mean, it sucks, and I think Sony should still let it go the way it was going. And I think, we probably won't get as good of a Spider-Man movie as a result, and they probably won't make as much money. But from a business perspective, when you're looking at it, there was no reason for them to make that deal, like agree to it. It was just straight Disney being greedy as hell.
I don't know. I think it would have been I think it would have been more profitable for Sony in the long run. I think if you look short game, I think it doesn't make sense. But I think long game, because Tom Holland, dude, that kid's incredible. And I could see him playing Spider-Man for 5, 6, 7 more movies.
Yeah, he's young.
Yeah, he's young. And so if they do this...
The people who are talking this over and the people who actually own it don't care about that.
True.
They don't think that way. They think
Sony...
they can do it just as good. Just because the Spider-Man name, not because the actual quality.
Okay, so then this leads me to...
People who are funding a lot of this stuff don't understand what makes a good superhero movie.
I know.
That's the problem. That's where you have to think of it. This
leads me to a question for you guys. So if this all falls through, and I think there's still room, there's still time that it could be saved, whatnot. We'll see. Time will tell. But if they do another Spider-Man, Tom Holland will probably have to be replaced. Who do you think next up?
He said he would keep going with Sony even if they did. He'd continue to be the Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't take my word for it, but I'm pretty positive.
Nope,
the only...
I just... Sam's word. He promised.
Wouldn't that be confusing? I feel like there's something that Disney could get involved with on that. Because since he was in the MCU and then continue to do it. Okay, so let's say
I heard he said like it would be a different path for the character and everything, but he would still be along for the ride or something.
So let's say it doesn't work out, Disney gets involved, and they have to replace him. Who do you think would be the next Spider-Man then in 2021? Seemingly would be maybe the next... 2022 would probably be the next Spider-Man movie then. Any thoughts? Guesses?
Shit, I don't know who's...
Bring back Toby, let's do it!
One of the kids.
Yeah.
One of the kids from Stranger Things. They're young.
Oh, please not Jimmy Wolfhard.
Oh god.
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves
Let's
as
just keep
Spider.
expanding on the Spider-Verse animated ones because those are actually good.
Yeah, those were good.
The animated was fantastic. My family wasn't that keen on it. I was just blown away how fucking good that movie
Sadly,
was.
that was the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie, though. So, of all of them. So I don't know if he will do another one. Which sucks, you know?
Good.
Money talks. Money
The actor
certainly
promised
talks.
fans at the time he would continue playing Spider-Man and having the time of his life, adding, "It's going to be so fun, however we choose to do it. The future for Spider-Man will be different, but it will be equally as awesome and amazing. And we'll find new ways to make it even cooler. Yay!"
But doesn't this fuck MCU completely? Like
That's what I'm saying. That's why it sounds like...
Yeah.
I feel like
Isn't it
Disney
great?
would have some sort of say in this. Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't know how the contracts are
deal
written.
Marvel made way back then was that bad. They made terrible deals on these movies rights way back when. Because Marvel made a lot of stupid deals way back when.
But what I'm saying is that this contract that they made with not the Spider-Man character, but at Tom Holland. Like I feel like there's something in the contract that says like Disney couldn't build up Tom Holland as Spider-Man with them paying these costs of stuff and then like Sony just running off with it. I feel like that seems like a huge oversight, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll eat those words.
It can't continue the MCU storyline or anything. Like it would have to be a reboot.
It would have to be a
Yeah, but it could still be the same actor. I feel like. What's gonna stop it?
Contracts.
What if it's like a different Thanos universe thingy?
I don't think they can do that. But plus, it's weird now because, like, I mean, Sony. I mean, I guess they do have Venom and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're just holding off. Maybe this is their first off, and Disney's gonna come back and be like 79 point whatever billion dollars.
A lot of MCU actors just came from shitty Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but those franchises
so bad.
But those franchises also ended, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like with it.
Well, Spider-Man's also ended now too.
Yeah.
It's done. We'll never know what happens with that cliffhanger at the end of Far From Home.
So fucked up.
Does he have a movie with Carnage?
The next one is supposed to have. Okay, so at the end of Venom, which wasn't a good movie.
It was
fun.
It was okay. Yeah,
It wasn't good, but it was
It
fun.
wasn't the
Dude, how
worst,
do you
but yeah.
fuck up Venom? Like, he's like the most
It
badass
wasn't a good
one.
movie by any way at all. But man, it was fun.
Venom just isn't meant. Venom's meant to be like an anti-hero or the antagonist of a Spider-Man movie, not his own solo film with no Spider-Man. But at the end of that movie, spoilers. And if you got this guy who's got this far, thank you for listening. But I don't know how much longer we'll go after this. But at the end of Venom,
It's fine.
they
It's just bonus.
they have what's his name? White Men Can't Jump. Woody Harrelson, and he's like in jail or something, and he says something, and then he ends with like, "There's gonna be carnage," and it's like, oh, and it just ended like that. So
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. So like,
Dude, when I was a kid, you go ahead.
so, yeah, I'm sorry, but like, it's like with Homecoming and Far From Home, Sony was the one who distributed those movies. And then they were allowing Disney to use him in the separate movies, like Civil War and stuff like that.
Which
so
is
they
weird.
could probably, I don't know for sure, but they could probably take that Spider-Man character,
But the
and then
weird,
just have no ties to the other MCU stuff and continue it.
yeah.
It
What
sucks.
what if Disney decided to continue to use Tom Holland in the movie and he went by a different name? Like, what if he dropped Spider-Man? Because it's like too because look, listen,
I want that so bad.
listen to this. He's been exposed that he's Spider-Man. So what if moving forward they use Tom Holland and
As
he
Night Monkey.
as a different character?
I say Arachnid Boy is the
Arachnid Boy. Oh man,
Completely
It
That'd
would
be
be
pretty
so
wild.
good. Honestly, it would be amazing if they pulled the bait and switch and just made up a whole new character that's totally just Spider-Man, but it's not Spider-Man.
I don't know. That
That would
sounds
be
like.
the best thing ever. I would love it.
Does that not sound like something Disney would do though?
They're
I
Disney.
don't know.
If
They
they're
seem ruthless.
spiteful enough, yeah.
Ooh, it looks like it's slotted for October 2020.
Which one?
Venom 2, Carnage.
Venom 2. Ooh,
Oh, sick.
interesting.
Oh boy. I
Yeah,
can't wait.
Carnage is badass.
Yeah. I guess time will tell. But
Yeah.
It's a bummer, man.
anyway, you guys
Either
got
way you
any?
look, it's a bummer for the fans.
Yeah, it is. The people that lose here are us. We're the losers in this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Do you guys got anything else? It's funny. The last article that I have with like all my show notes is just that GameIndustry.biz article with, but like it just says the THQ Nordic holding AMA on image board known for child porn. So when I was putting this together, Mabel's like looking over my shoulder. She's like, "Why are you looking up child porn?" I'm like, oh my god,
No.
You're like, what? No, who?
no.
What? No.
it wasn't me.
Girl, you better hurry up and get married to her before, we
I know.
ruin it all for you.
I know.
We're trying really hard.
I know. It's a good thing she doesn't listen. But
Yeah.
if you do, love you, sweetie.
She's been listening the whole time.
Right?
Tomorrow.
I think I'm safe. If she listens, she hasn't listened this far in, so I'm okay.
Nice.
Hi, babes.
Yeah, there she is. What was the thing? Okay, so before we get out of here, next week we are going to do a little bit of a change than we usually do. Instead of just doing the normal podcast where before we would just talk about what was new in the industry, and now we've been switching to this more history in the gaming industry, we are actually going to do our very first interview with none other. I don't know if any of you guys like know him, but those of you that in the Rocket League field that play on Xbox might see that name up there. But his name is Seikle on Xbox. He is currently ranked like 26th on Xbox. It's incredible. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
Insane.
Yeah, I remember playing with him when we were both trash and we'd miss the ball, couldn't do aerials, and then every subsequent time I played with him, he was better each time, and he was doing some new trick, and I was like just barely still getting off the ground, and I'm like, what's going on, Sage? And then he's just slowly been climbing the ladder while I just stay in the same place forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't hit it in my own goal, I feel like I had a good game, but he's just years beyond me.
Kid's an animal. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, if I can block the ball, or if I can touch the ball in the game, I'm like, dude, I just did pretty good at this game.
Exactly, that's me.
I've gotten much further than that.
Yeah, I was always awful at it, but it came out in like 2015, so.
Seiko's the man. I've watched some of his streams playing and whatnot too. You know. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. So we'll be going over a lot of Rocket League stuff and talking to him about it and what he's been doing there, and we'll probably try and finish off with like a bunch of questions. So I know I'm gonna ask in the Discord if you have questions, but also in the YouTube video, if you got any questions that you want to ask us, not even about next week, anything whatsoever, I'll bring it up in future episodes. So be sure to leave a comment, like and subscribe. What else do I have to say? 5-star review on iTunes. If you don't give us that 5 stars, then get the fuck out, because all we accept is 5 stars.
We're gonna add more loot boxes to your favorite game if you don't. Give us 5 stars.
Yeah, I have that type of power. So.
Sam has connections.
Yeah, he definitely does. Yeah, because like half of Alaska already went up in flames. Don't make him light the other half up.
Yeah, did you hear that the FIFA, the guy who's in charge in FIFA is taking over for Battlefield and Battlefront and Need for Speed. So Criterion, DICE,
Sounds
another
like
company.
you're playing work then, Sam.
Yeah,
Like
I'm real excited to see how he fits in FIFA packs into Battlefield. It's going to be great.
It's going to be more of this, like, the more you spend in each game, you'll also get like shared revenue for the other games. So it's just like if you buy something in FIFA, you also get stuff in Battlefront. It's just all gonna be shared community, and you're just buying. Yeah.
I'd be happier with that,
system.
bro. FIFA's cancer now, man.
Makes sense.
I used to love FIFA. I'll complain about that another day.
We'll complain about it next week. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Wordness and the Nerdness podcast. Thank you all for listening. We love you all very much. Until then, stay nerdy, friends, and dab on them. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got a big old Waluigi.
Dabbing Luigi. Wait, Waluigi. Oh no!
See, he already fucked it up. Big rips.
Post.